So you're sitting at home watching TV. The lights go out. The power goes out. You look outside. The power's out everywhere. You try to turn on the radio. There's no radio stations. You get in a vehicle and you try to start it. Vehicle doesn't start. Folks, have you ever heard of a CME? Check out this video. Follow, like, and share. Subscribe, comment below. Share this on other platforms.
Americans are now aware of the threat of electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. But fewer know that there is a natural phenomenon called a coronal mass ejection, or CME, that could land an even more devastating blow to electrical grids around the world.
CME, coronal mass ejection. All of the time, the sun is having explosions blowing off its surface. Statistically, about every 100 to 150 years, one of those massive explosions, which if you took a photograph of the Earth and put it next to the explosion, Earth looks like a BB compared to something the size of my fist. If that hits us in orbit head-on, it compresses the magnetosphere and triggers essentially what is an EMP as well.
The last time a massive solar storm hit the Earth was 1859. It's known as the Carrington Event.
The Carrington Event is named after a solar astronomer who just happened to be named Carrington. 1859, working in Greenwich, England, he was photographing the sun using this incredible new technology, photography, and he captured an image of a large solar flare blowing off. About a day later, the Victorian internet blew offline. Telegraphy stations caught on fire. Telegraphy lines melted off their poles. In fact, the overload was so intense that railroad ties were catching on fire because of the amount of electricity passing through the iron rails. Thus, we now refer to that level of a CME, coronal mass ejection, as a Carrington event.
The last Carrington-class geomagnetic superstorm was in 1859. They're supposed to happen about once a century. Well, it's been more than a century. So we're sort of living on borrowed time here when it comes to the threat from the sun. Now, what would that do? If the Carrington event happened today, it wouldn't just affect the United States, it would affect the entire world. It would collapse electric grids and critical infrastructures that support life all over the world, put billions of lives at risk.
What happens in China and India alone with billion-plus populations and no electricity? I would fairly guess that within a matter of days, there would be a global war. India versus Pakistan, Middle East versus Israel. Essentially, all controls, command and control is off. People are scrambling for resources, or it's time for payback. There are estimates that the global die-off would be the most significant in history of humanity. What do I think the probability is? 100%. If not in our lifetime, definitely in the lifetime of our children.